Welcome back. I'm Emily at Emily's podcast, Tribute to All Little Angels, Part 15, Episode 2 of the Timeline. April 15th, 2026. There is no episode which airs tonight. I need some breathing time. But anyway, in the here and now, I'm writing the story from the very beginning of what has happened. No dates of what happened or describing pictures. Just the story from the beginning. May 7th, 2015. Rain fell. Water from the sky. 7.1 inches of rain. On 4th Street in Moore, Oklahoma, the rain flooded the street and the cemetery is closed because of it. The loved ones cannot get in to visit. I wait until May 9th, 2015 when the street reopens, and as I pull into the cemetery, I still remember the dreary feeling I have. It seems dark. As I pull up the street on the west side of the cemetery, I pull up to Megan's area. I look over at the area as I get closer, and then I drove past the only tree in this area because, as we know, Megan is laid to rest west of this same tree, except this time I drive past because I didn't see her headstone as I drove by. I look in disbelief. I'm looking and I can't see her headstone anywhere. I back up. I sit to look to try to figure out what has happened. My first thought is, I have to go get my camera. Then my thought is, where is your headstone, baby? Where is your vase? I get out of the car. I stand on the street to look out over the area. I stand in confusion. I then see her vase. I see it laying along the fence line, nowhere near where her headstone was at rest. Now I look to see if I can find her headstone. And still thinking I have to go home to get my camera, I then step into the grass and I sunk. My feet and legs were underwater, halfway up the calves of my legs. As I walk, I lose my flip-flops. I've left them and continued to wade through the water to the fence line to pick up Megan's vase to her headstone. And all the while asking God, what happened? And where is your headstone, angel? I pick up Megan's vase. I have flip-flops in my hand and now Megan's headstone vase. As I stand without losing my balance, and as I stand here, of course I choke up. I'm in disbelief as to what is going on. I look around and I see her headstone halfway underwater and halfway out, as other headstones, also looks a mess too. I start to cry and thinking, I have to get my camera. I have to take these pictures. I make it back to the street, wading through the flooded area. I grab napkins from the glove box to wipe off and to get mud off of me. I set the vase in the back seat floorboard, and I set the flip-flops in the front driver floorboard. I sit in the car for a matter of a few minutes, still looking out over the area in major disbelief. And by now, then thought, the flood water moved the headstones. No denying that. I pull out of the cemetery to drive home to grab my camera. And while at home, I took a quick shower to get ready to drive back to the cemetery and take pictures of the area, as I've been taking pictures in this same area since April of 1999. I arrive at the cemetery and start taking the pictures. I take the pictures and I stand and cry. I remember thinking over and over, how the hell am I going to get this fixed? I ask this same question a few dozen times while standing here. Then I think, who do I contact? I have to call the city, I thought. My mind is scattered. My thoughts are scrambled. I get back in the car to drive home, and I cry. I'm choked up, and I'm so emotional. I'm crying, driving, and I know I should not have been. I make it home safely to sit and look at the pictures. A while later, my daughter Nicole, Megan's mother, walks in. I show her the pictures. She's in disbelief also, asking me what happened. I tell her the floodwater moved the headstones. I said, please, on Monday, call the city. She said, I will. She did, with talking to a lady which said she would put in a work order. So we wait. No callback. My daughter calls again and again and again. And then I start to call to receive the same courtesy as my daughter is receiving, with no calls back. Near a year later, from May 11th, 2015 to March 2016, we finally reached someone. On March 28, 2016, I talked with the city manager to meeting him at the cemetery at 3 p.m. on this same day. I show him a couple pictures. I tell him what has happened. He said, well, you're looking at it from the west, and I'm looking at it from the east. And at that moment, I thought, oh boy, east, west is mumbo jumbo. I tell him the landscape has not moved. The street, the east-west street, is still in place. The only tree in this area now is still in its same location, and also the blue and white Babyland 6th West sign is still in place. There before the flood and still here after the flood. He said, I think we have pictures too, and that he would call me in a few days to set an appointment to meet to look at the pictures. And I'm okay with that. We call the meeting to an end and we leave the cemetery. When I leave, I expect to hear from him in a few days. So Wednesday of the next week. I did not hear from him. I didn't hear from him on Thursday or Friday either. I wait half the day on Friday for a call and no call. So I call him back. A lady put me through to him setting up a meeting at City Hall on April 6, 2016. The first meeting. I have pictures and notes. And believe it or not, it didn't get us anywhere. They start the denial. We then go to the cemetery to view the area. Yet again, more denial moments. And believe me, when I leave the cemetery, I knew it was going to be a fight. This meeting is where the groundsman hung his head down to reply with a uh-huh when the city manager asked, you cut down a tree? And I thought, you haven't cut down no tree since 5 years prior, the north tree was cut out due to being cracked in half from the damage of a storm and removed by the city. It was removed, and for the next 5 years, there stood one tree, with Megan west of this tree, the rock headstone west of this same tree, east of Megan, the tree and the rock headstone with the blue and white Babyland 6 West sign. And then I knew I had to start investigating myself. I'd take pictures of the area to compare them to pictures taken from the very first day we laid Megan to rest. The more I took pictures and the more I would look at them, I can see things just don't add up. So on April 18, 2016, I looked for attorneys. The next day, an attorney gave me some advice. Then I start writing letters to our senators, state representatives, councilmen, and news stations. On April 21st, 2016, I faxed the letters to the councilmen. I sent the letters in good faith to hear back from someone. And then on May 4th, 2016, I mailed letters to the state senators, state representatives, and 3 major news stations. And on May 16, 2016, a senator calls me back. The next day, I certify mailed letters with information to this senator. To hear nothing back. But this senator is on the wrong side of the fence, and he did nothing for us. My letters are ignored. I work on it and I work on it, feeling exhausted, frustrated, mad, and definitely crying. Just the feeling of all of this. I write letters, I make calls, feeling defeated, but not giving up. How can I? How would anyone? I take more and more pictures to compare. Then I have an idea to get in touch with surveyors. I did talk to one, and he said he would help me in his own time. And while I wait, I take more and more pictures. Then in October of 2016, and of course after my complaints, there is now a dirt pile in the area where the groundsman pointed out he cut down a tree. This is them portraying they cut down the south tree, which the south tree is the only standing tree and still is to this day. And if you look at pictures from 1999 to May 9, 2015, there is no tree there in that location to cut down, and definitely not where that groundsman pointed out. Because where he said the tree was standing at the meeting in the cemetery, that was the first red flag. Because absolutely no returned calls back to, and they are not being truthful. I work harder on this for Megan and the rest of the loved ones that are without their burial marker, their headstones. And then over a period of 3 days, the dirt pile is bigger. And on the 3rd day, there are also wood chips thrown on top. I can't believe this. They are covering their tracks all in the wrong way, especially when I have proof in the pictures. And besides, before the dirt pile is put there, I look at it as it is, even if there was a tree there, the tree they cut down doesn't line up with the south tree to the southeast headstone, the rock headstone, and Megan's headstone. And this was the second red flag. And yet, a year and a half after the flooding incident, still no calls back. So I continue to investigate. I visit the cemetery quite often and wait on the surveyor to get back to me. Then on December 9th, 2016, the surveyor's partner calls and we meet at the cemetery on December 10th, 2016, and still waiting to hear from a senator, a representative, a councilman, or even the city, but nothing. And then in 2017, February 2017, the last time I heard from the surveyor, on this same day, I talked with a lady at the funeral home which done Megan's service, and no more until May 26, 2017. I talked with an elderly couple at the cemetery in Babyland 6th West area. They said the city told them the headstones weren't moved. They cut down a tree, which is false. As we talk, I didn't get their names, but I did get their license plate number. But I do know their loved one in this area. In fact, the elderly lady, tells me her friend's granddaughter's headstone, they couldn't find it after the flood, and her friend just doesn't come out here anymore. I know the headstone they expressed about, and I talk about it on this podcast. And now we are into June 6, 2017. I call the city attorney. June 9, 2017, the city attorney calls me back. He told me at this time he would talk to Mark and Linda, and one of them will call me back. No one calls back. June 19, 2017, I call an attorney. The attorney had given me advice along the way, and he gave me a number to call. I make an appointment to go in and talk with this man. Nicole, my daughter, Megan's mother, calls the city to get a price of having Megan exhumed. And thinking about this, my gosh, I don't want to dig her up. But my next thought is, I may not have a choice. And this day is the last day I attempt to contact that city manager. June 22nd, 2027, I hire the attorney. And between September 11th, 2017 and January of 2018, it was just messages from the law firm, which I have the emails. Now we are into 2018 and not hearing anything until May. May 4th, 2018, my attorney mentions digging up where they say they cut down a tree. The next day, Madison and I went to the cemetery with a probe to probe the area where they say they cut down the south tree. There is no tree stump there. We even probed where they pointed out they cut the tree down. If ever there was a tree there, there was no tree stump. My attorney is calling the city and no one will call him back. Then on June 27, 2018, the city has changed city managers. His name is Steve now. My attorney gave them 10 days to comply. And on July 17, 2018, the city manager, Steve, calls back, said they will be meeting to look over pictures and talk about what needs to be done. July 24, 2018, I dropped the pictures off to the attorney's office of Madison and I probing the area. Here we are, the end of July. My attorney and their city manager is having a meeting. But then on August 7th, 2018, my attorney calls to say the city manager is back to Stan, and Stan is getting a JGVE engineer, and there were no meetings between my attorney and their city manager. My attorney says he called the city and Stan isn't in, and there's been no call back. From August until November 15th, 2018, my attorney calls to say Stan said he asked Linda to get a surveyor to survey the area in the cemetery. And here's another red flag. Linda is retiring. My attorney then asked me to go to the cemetery and probe the area where the north tree stood. And now on November 27, 2018, Stan, the city manager, is to talk to Mark, the groundsman, about cutting down the tree. And on December 20th, 2018, another year gone. A lot of stalling. But I call the attorney, no call back. And my reasoning for him not calling back is because he's not hearing nothing from Stan at the city or any of them. And now we are here moving into the fourth year, January 4th, 2019. My attorney calls and said, Stan is apologizing for not getting back to us on November 28, 2018. The city manager, Stan, keeps losing my attorney's phone numbers and information, and he's forgetting conversation he has had with my attorney. And then on January 15, 2019, a segment on Channel 9 News is about the cemetery flooding. And on the next day, my attorney and I met with Stan, Mark, the groundsman, and a lady at the city named Vanessa at the city hall. Stan admits headstones have been moved. He had a surveyor go out, and he says there's 5 or 6 headstones that had moved. Another red flag, because there's so many more than 5 or 6. Stan then asked if I can meet with Mark at the cemetery to show me where the surveyor marked. 2 days later, January 18, 2019, I meet Mark at the cemetery. At the cemetery. There are red boxes drawn in the grass, but when I see where they are marked, I cannot agree to where they marked them at, because they are marked further away from where Megan was laid to rest. I call my attorney 3 different times. No answer. And now into February 2019. I've heard nothing from Stan. My attorney said he will give him until March 4th, 2019, and then he will file litigation. Let's see if he does. Stay tuned for the next episode in 2 weeks. I will start again on March 6, 2019. And remember, they can take the goodness from you, but they cannot take it out of you. Stay kind with your words, and thank you for listening.